So lesson 4 does involve basic CSS. And what we're going to be learning in this lesson, you are going to be using throughout the rest of the semester. You can use the same basic CSS commands with all sorts of different HTML elements. And it is really important that you guys read through the lecture demo and kind of play with those interactive exercises. This is providing a lot of the basics for you that you need to know for your HTML and CSS certification exam. And basically, we're defining the different areas of a CSS style rule. You've got your HTML element, which is called a selector. You've got your declaration, which is the property and value together. It has very specific syntax in internal style sheets and external. Okay, both the internal style sheets and external use the curly braces at the beginning and the end. The property is followed by a colon. The value you are setting it to is followed by a semicolon. And whenever you see to see this live, go ahead and click on that because you can make changes and see the results. So you can pretty much select any main color and run it. And you are going to be learning a lot more about colors. But it is kind of fun to see those immediate changes. And then there's 3 different ways to put a CSS style in a page. You can do an external style sheet, an internal style sheet, or inline styles. And this section is going to explain what each one of those is and the syntax you need to use to create each. In your lab assignment or the textbook assignment, you will be creating all 3. And in the lab assignment, you will be doing an internal and an external style sheet. And you'll also be required to do 1 inline style. So you are going to get plenty of practice using all 3 techniques. Then we get into changing color because, let's face it, that's one of the primary things that we're going to use CSS to do because color is fun. And there's 3 different ways that you can specify color. You can use color names. You can use RGB values. And for those of you that have had art classes, this is probably what you're going to feel comfortable with. If you've never had any kind of a graphic design course, you're probably going to steer away from this. But the values are 0 to 255. And the first one is for red, the second one is for green, and the third one is for blue. So all of the colors that you could possibly create are combinations of numbers, of values. And then you can also use a hexadecimal number. And there are plenty of sites that actually give you color names. And this is actually a really good site that shows you how to apply those color names. It also shows you color values, different ways of specifying the exact same color and how to apply them. And this site is kind of nice because it gives you the color name, the hexadecimal equivalent. And then if you click on either shades or mix, you can come in here, okay, and you can make little changes and see how it looks. And we're going to be learning a little bit more about what these hexadecimal numbers mean. But before we get into what those hex numbers mean, we do cover different ways of applying color. The 2 primary ways are to use the color property or to use the background color property. So color is for text, and background color is just what it says. It's behind the text, underneath. And again, please use the try it link so you can practice. We do get into a little bit of color theory. It is kind of important that you understand this. And I've included links of good websites, websites that use color well, and websites that do not. How you use color can make the difference between having a successful and a non-successful site. And then we talk a little bit about how colors are formed, what warm colors are, what cool colors are, how to get different tints, shades, and tones. And then more importantly, how to pick good color combinations, okay? And different ways those combinations are selected. Okay? Analogous colors usually do look nice. They're next to each other on the color wheel, and a lot of colors in nature are this way. Complementary colors are opposite on the color wheel. We also have a lot of triads where you've got basically two colors that are fairly close on the wheel and one that's across. Okay, so there's all sorts of different color schemes, and there are websites that will help you put together your colors. You should be aware that when you're looking at color, the background makes your foreground color appear different. So in all of these examples, the foreground color is the same. What is different is the background color. And then we do get into how the hexadecimal colors work. Is this something that you need to know for your certification exam? No. It is just kind of nice to know for yourself. So the FF is full brightness, zeros are no color, and then you get into different percentages of brightness. So if we're looking over here at the mixer, we have all Fs, so that's full brightness in red, green, and blue positioning. But if I change it to like, let's see, 60 here, and we'll do 60 there, and submit, you can see how the color is changing. And then I've got kind of different shades of that color. Let me see, hopefully this won't look hideous. Okay, so changing the hex value definitely changes your color. And again, you're just dealing with varying degrees of brightness because RGB is the color of light. And websites you can use to help you select color. There is a W3 Schools color picker. I really like the Adobe site. But the color picker actually will let you pull any color and it gives you shades. It also shows you the RGB value in addition to the hex values. Okay, so I think a lot of you will find this useful. This Adobe color site is one that I have you guys use in the lab assignment. Basically, you can get different color schemes based on this center color. So if you, for example, wanted to set, let's say, green here as your base color. It looks like that's the hex for it, so I'm going to copy that. You can actually put that in here. And then if I went to, let's say, triad, it's going to do a triad based on that color. And then I go back to analogous. Okay, it's basing on that color. Okay. And so you can try to then find different color schemes that you like. And it is giving you all the hex values here for that. And these other sites are also useful, so you can check all of those out. You can also upload a graphic to Lunapic and then use the File menu Color Palette command, and it will give you the 8 most used colors in that image, and you can certainly use those for colors in your page. Now, when you're creating your own site, it is important that you understand how color affects mood. So I do have a little graphic that you guys can take a look at, and you can kind of see how the different colors will affect people's moods. And again, this is just showing you how to apply images to the background of your page. We're going to do a lot of that in the textbook assignment. So you'll get some practice. Then we cover fonts. You definitely want to make sure you read through this. We will be specifying more than one font because the way that the browser interprets the fonts, it actually is looking on the user's computer. And not everyone has the same fonts. That's why you want to do more than one. So it looks for the first one. And if it doesn't find it, it looks for the second one. And then if you have a third one, it looks for that, and so on. So typically the very last font you list is going to be a generic. Because if you list a generic last, it's always going to find something, whatever the default is on that computer. Okay, so it's font family, and then you're going to give it, you know, all the different fonts. And we've got serif fonts, and those are fonts that have little tails on the end. You can kind of even see here what that looks like. We have sans serif fonts, and those are block-like. And then the monospace fonts are more like typewriter fonts. Okay, and if you click on this, okay, you can actually look at different, so it's showing a sans serif here and a serif there, and you can look at the difference between it. The sans serif doesn't have the little tail on the end, it's block-like, and the serif does have the tail on the end. Okay, there's also a cursive font, and so I'm just going to do cursive here so you can see what that generic looks like. Okay, so at this particular site, that's what it looks like, not the greatest generic. Okay, but you can actually play around with this and put in different fonts. But keep in mind that it's only going to be able to pull what you have on your computer. There are all sorts of different web fonts you can use. And these web fonts are, the one that I usually use is the Google fonts because it's super easy to use those. And this is actually a link to Google Fonts. If you use this link, you can use a font called Lobster. And this is what the Lobster font looks like. But this is the Google Font site. So any font that you like, okay, what you can do is click the plus sign. And it selects it down here. You click on it. And this is how you add the font to your web page. Okay, and then if you want to use the font, this is actually the name of the font. And you can see it right here. Okay, they typically have multi-word fonts with a plus sign between them, but when you use them, you just put them in single quotes, no plus sign. Okay, so they're pretty much giving you everything you need to use whatever font you like in here. And then we have different properties for fonts that affect the size. Font weight is really bold facing, you know, how thick the letters are. Style is like italics. Text transform will let you do upper, lowercase, that type of thing. We are going to be using text transform. We'll be using the font weight and text shadow properties. So we're going to use an awful lot of the CSS that you see in here. It's a good idea to look through alignment. We're going to do a little bit with alignment this week, but in upcoming weeks, we're going to use it more and more. We'll be playing a little bit with space between letters this week. But you can see there's just all sorts of different properties. If we do not use the property this week, rest assured we will be using it in upcoming weeks, because this is the basis for all CSS that we are going to be using all semester. So please read through this entire lecture demo and try out the live examples, because they definitely will help you understand it. Now, once you get done with that, you're going to go in and do the textbook assignment. And I did do videos for every single task in here. So definitely make sure you watch the video. The video, the first one is showing you how to set up your directory structure correctly. So I would probably watch that, because if you don't set up the directory structure correctly, then your links and things are not going to work. Okay, and then we get into each task where you're going to be modifying existing pages by adding CSS in a variety of ways. The lab assignment gives you additional practice, and there is a video that I created for this as well. And I have to reload the page here, but you can see this gives you an overview of everything that you have to do in this particular assignment. And then once you finish the textbook in the lab, make sure you go into the Dropbox and enter done. That way I know it's completed. And then finally, you're going to go into the discussion forum. And if there's a CSS property you want to learn more about, you can go ahead and research it. As I mentioned, there's no way we can use every single property this week, because you'd be working on your assignment for like 40 hours. And nobody wants to do that. So in upcoming weeks, we are going to be using more and more and more CSS, and you'll have a really good feel by the end of the semester for everything it can do. At this point, if there's something you want to learn more about, this is your opportunity to research it. And it does not matter if it's something we covered or not, because we haven't really touched on all of CSS3. CSS3 added animation to CSS, and we haven't even talked about that yet. We don't get into that until later in the semester. So if you've heard about something in CSS that you think is interesting, go ahead and research it. What I'll probably do if I see a posting for something that is coming up, I will just reply to your posting to let you know when to expect to see it in the course. Okay, so let's say I'm a little confused about, padding. What in the heck does padding do? So I would probably do a search on CSS padding. W3 Schools is an awesome place to start. Okay, and so I probably read through this, and then if this is what I decided to share with the class, I would click this link, Control-C to copy, go back to my discussion. I would add the discussion topic, and I'd include the link, and then I'd probably just summarize what I learned. Okay, and it's really important in your summary that you explain what the purpose of it is and how it can be used in web pages, because chances are somebody else in class is going to be interested in it too. Then what I want you to do is read everybody else's posting and reply to one. Okay, so that is the discussion forum. So people usually have kind of a fun time with this, because you are looking up what you are interested in. And it is okay if we haven't covered it yet. Now, if you guys have any questions or problems, what you're going to need to do is transfer your pages, transfer them to the web, and then send me an email message, and I will take a look at them. I have to see your page live in order to help you, okay? Because a lot of times things work offline and they do not work online. And the primary reason things don't work when they're live is because of the upper and lowercase spellings. Because when it's live online, upper and lowercase matters. So have a great week. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this because CSS is how you make your pages look great.